Let's talk about the very foundations of our modern world, steel and cement. I mean, they're literally everywhere, but they come with this huge, kind of hidden climate cost. So today, we're going to unpack the International Energy Agency's new roadmap for how to clean up these essential industries. So, just for a second, think about the car you drive, the building you're in right now, the bridges you cross. All of them depend on these two materials. But what's the real price we're paying for them when it comes to emissions? I think the number's going to surprise you. 14%. Just let that number hang in the air for a second. It's a huge figure. But what does it actually represent? That's right. Just two industries are responsible for a full seventh of the world's energy and process emissions. It's kind of mind-blowing, and it makes them absolutely central to the whole decarbonization challenge. It's exactly why the IEA is sounding the alarm. Okay, so the problem is huge. We get that. But the real issue, and this is what the IEA points out, is that the pace of change right now is just dangerously slow. We know what we need to do, but we are not doing it nearly fast enough. I mean, the ideas for green steel and cement are out there, but they aren't growing at anything close to the rate we need. And look, this isn't just a small delay. It's a massive gap between our climate goals and the reality on the ground in our industries. So, what's holding everything up? Well, that brings us to the main thing standing in the way of a green industrial revolution. And like with so many things, it really boils down to cost. So what you're seeing here is the classic trade-off. Right now, the conventional, high-emission way of making this stuff, it's just cheaper. The new near-zero emissions technologies, they exist, but they come with a higher price tag, what economists call a green premium. And this chart, wow, it really shows you the scale of that premium. Depending on the tech and where you are in the world, producing clean steel or cement can cost anywhere from 10% to over 125% more. If you're a single company in a cutthroat global market, taking on that extra cost by yourself is a huge, huge financial risk. And here's the crazy part. That extra cost for you, the person buying a car or living in a new building, it would probably be pretty small, maybe a few percent at most. But for the actual steel or cement maker at the very beginning of that long, complicated supply chain, that initial cost is a massive wall that stops them from investing. All right, so if cost is the big barrier, how do we knock it down? Well, the IEA's roadmap basically splits the solution into two parts. First up, we have to create guaranteed demand. We need policies that pull these new clean products into the market. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is through something called green public procurement. The logic here is actually really simple and powerful. Governments are enormous buyers of steel and cement for stuff like roads, bridges, you name it. If they just commit to buying the clean version, it sends a massive signal to the market. All of a sudden, producers see a guaranteed customer, which takes away the risk and gives them the confidence they need to actually build new low-emission plants. But procurement isn't the only tool in the toolbox. Governments can also do things like set mandatory market shares for green materials or put limits on the total embodied carbon in new buildings and cars. They could even create clear labels so buyers know exactly what they're getting. It's all about building a reliable, growing market from the ground up. Okay, so creating demand is awesome, but it's only half the battle. We also have to make sure companies can actually make enough of this clean stuff to meet that new demand. This is the push side of the equation, policies that are designed to boost the supply. And this chart, this really lays bare the challenge we're facing. On the left, you've got the amount of near-zero production capacity that companies have said they'll build by 2030. On the right is what the IEA says we actually need to be on track for net zero. The gap? Well, it's staggering. Yeah, you read that right. We are only on track to build 10% of the capacity we need. That means 90% of the clean steel and cement factories that we need by 2030 don't even exist on paper yet. The key takeaway here is we need to start building, and we need to start now. So how do we bridge this massive gap? Well, governments can step in with financial incentives, things like grants and tax credits, to help with these super expensive new projects. They can also invest in the infrastructure everyone will need, like hydrogen pipelines or CO2 storage sites. And critically, they can require that any new old-school plant that gets built today has to be near-zero capable, which basically means it can be easily upgraded with clean tech down the road. And here's the thing. A really unique window of opportunity is opening up right now. A lot of old plants are about to need major upgrades. As you can see, for countries in the so-called Climate Club, that's a group of nations committed to serious climate action, Pretty much all of their cement plants are facing this decision by 2030. It is the perfect moment to switch to cleaner tech instead of locking in another whole generation of high-emissions factories.
So you've got this plan to pull demand and to push supply, but steel and cement are traded all over the world. A messy patchwork of different national rules just isn't going to cut it. To really make this work, the IEA says the world has to act together.
And the stakes really could not be higher. The IEA puts it very bluntly here. Without strong international cooperation, this whole transition could be delayed by decades. And that's time we just don't have. This is where that climate club comes in again. The IEA is basically suggesting that this group of leading industrial nations, who represent about a quarter of the global market, should team up and act as a collective first mover. If they coordinate their policies, they can create a big enough initial market to drive down costs and basically set the standard for everyone else. So what would this coordinated action actually look like? Well, the IEA proposes a really clear, concrete target. First, for steel, they want to work together to hit a global market share of 35% for near-zero emissions steel by 2035. And then for cement, the target is 25% near-zero emissions product on the global market by that same year, 2035. Now, these are ambitious goals, but they're designed to send a powerful, unmistakable signal to industry and to investors. And this pledge wouldn't just be some empty words. It would be backed by 4 solid pillars of action, basically combining everything we've just talked about. Creating that coordinated demand, scaling up the supply, making sure new plants are future-proof, and finally, actively planning to phase out production from the most polluting facilities.
So there you have it. The IEA has laid out the problem, the barriers, and a really comprehensive, coordinated solution. The roadmap is clear. The technologies are coming online. A critical window for investment is open right now. The only question left is, will the world's industrial nations actually step up and pledge to build this cleaner future?